I don't know. Great, second.
All right, let's call the meeting to order and get started here. First thing is approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go back to that. Consent agenda. Any questions on consent agenda?
Well, what, we missed a couple.
Oh, I didn't skip over one. Oh,
Yeah, recognition of guests.
I flew through the pages over. All right, so appreciate everybody being here tonight. And again, those who watch on the video, it is important to as many people to be involved in the process as possible. So appreciate you being here. We have the citizens open forum. Is that the board appreciates patrons taking time to talk to us about our policies and procedures. We set aside this time every meeting to hear from the public. Your comments to be directed towards board policy, where the procedure our administrator is established to carry out these policies. This is not an appropriate time or place for patrons to make comments of a personal nature about any district employee or student. Persons making comments which violate the privacy acts of district employees and students will be asked to stop speaking or cease their remarks. If a patron or parent has a concern with one or more employees, the board will refer that person to the appropriate administrator, and the board will follow up at a future meeting. Persons speaking will be allowed 3 minutes each to express their opinions. In case where there's a large number of patrons have similar opinions, a single speaker should be chosen to represent the group. Thank you for taking the time to discuss business with the board. So we have 3 people signed up, so we really need to stick with our time limits here as best we can. But first on the list is Susie Swanson. Susie?
First in the article in the Dispatch following the last regular board meeting, the editor inaccurately reported that I requested that the board reconsider support for the child care piece of the Community Recreation Center project. I did not. My request was that the board members see the value of partnerships, and in the future, you would be good citizens and work with the community when opportunities arise. Tonight, I want to comment on 2 presentations that were made at the last meeting. One involves students doing meaningful work around the school. One board member said some parents did not look favorably on seeing students vacuuming the library. Perhaps the concern was that vacuuming is the custodian's job, or that the student should be in the classroom, not doing jobs around school. I see meaningful work for students as reinforcing the value of a good work ethic, something we all value. Not all students are taught work ethic at home, and this provides them an opportunity to experience the benefit of accomplishing a work task and doing it well. The other program was Leader in Me. 7 principles were highlighted. The one that stood out for me was First Things First. Concern was expressed about these programs taking time away from academic learning. In my mind, these skills are providing the foundation for the academic learning and are as important as math, reading, social studies, etc. Equal in importance, but not in the time required to accomplish the goals. About a decade ago, Randy Watson, Greg Nineswander, and other Department of Education staff conducted a listening tour throughout the state, talking to parents, employees, and school staff. They received surprising feedback from employers. They stressed the importance of soft skills, showing up for work on time, getting along with fellow employees, and stable family relationships. These are skills that can be taught and reinforced in schools and go hand in hand with academic knowledge. An effective education provides a balance of both academic and soft or interpersonal skills. Teaching and then reinforcing these skills is vital to preparing students for the world of work, regardless of their chosen profession. I applaud the school district for working to integrate both into the curriculum for elementary through secondary schools. Schools are criticized by some for taking over the job of parents. In reality, not all parents and not even most parents possess the skills themselves and neither teach nor model them at home. If they could, they would. It would be like me trying to teach my children to play piano when I can't play piano myself. It doesn't make me a bad parent, just one that can't impart knowledge I don't have. I hope you will continue to support the efforts of the hardworking school staff that put their hearts and souls into educating our children. Thank you.
Next up is Sarah Todd.
I'm sorry, I know you only allow one. I didn't realize she was talking about that. I was addressing the leader in me. Sorry, I didn't mean to double up on that. Okay, and good evening. My name is Sarah Cott. I'm one of the school counselors that presented last month regarding the Leader in Me program. I appreciate you taking the time to consider this program. I wanted to highlight again that there's been a team working for 2 years on addressing the mental health impact since COVID in schools. This team, consisting of principals, counselors, and teachers in the district from every school, took time to get feedback from staff at the schools, go through additional training in the programs we were addressing, piloted 2 programs within the school, conducted surveys for community feedback, and used all of this information to select the Leader in Me program. This program is not set up to cut into academic learning time and can be used to supplement or replace what is already being used during class meetings, counseling lessons, etc. In regards to academic learning and test scores, I am a firm supporter of high academic standards in learning. I believe that these habits support strong academic learning and test scores. Garfield Elementary is one of the schools that has used some of the 7 habits in the past, piloted part of this program in the fall, and has also had very strong test scores. So why am I up here sharing this again? I came back to the schools after the COVID shutdown in the fall of 2021. I saw firsthand how much of an impact on mental health the pandemic had and was having on students, families, and staff in the schools. I chose to be part of this team to address these needs because I care about these students, schools, and our community. I believe, especially after this last year in our community, that we cannot turn a blind eye to the unique educational and mental health needs that our students are facing. I also believe that providing our schools with resources and training that help promote positive habits and leadership will only strengthen our academics and test scores. We have a unique opportunity through the ESSER funds to gain a resource for our entire school district that could have an impact for years to come. I've heard a lot of positive feedback from parents over and over in our schools about some of the school-wide jobs, leadership roles, marathon club, and other aspects of Leader in Me that has been implemented already in the schools. I've also heard positive feedback from the community business leaders I talked with regarding the program. The main thing I've heard from parents and community members has been wishing we had more of this in the schools. As you review this program tonight, if you have any reasons for not supporting the ESSER funds for Leader in Me, I ask that out of consideration for the team that has worked on this, the teachers that have helped pilot the program, the school staff that have requested more resources in this area, and the community members that have given input, to please share those reasons and also follow up with the team that has put work into this. And thank you so much for your time and consideration and listening, and some of you that had gotten back with me, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. So, Candace.
According to the U.S. Department of Education, the purpose of high school is to prepare students for whatever paths they may choose as they transition into adulthood. Allow me to pose you all with one question. In 15 months, when I begin college, who is going to make sure my phone isn't being used as a distraction during classes or lectures? CCCHS students are responsible enough and the staff is professional enough to determine their own cell phone policy.
The high school currently allows juniors and seniors to enroll in online courses to be completed at their own pace. This spring semester, I chose to take psychology through the Cloud County Community College. I completed the course with 2 weeks left in the semester. My final grade was 97%. And here's the kicker: no one regulated my phone usage. If I chose to spend the 45 minutes allocated each day for that class on my phone, watching TikTok, sending Snapchats to my friends, then that was going to be reflected in my overall performance. That is going to come back on me, not the teacher, not the administration, not the friends that I sent those Snapchats to, not my parents who bought me the phone, but me. This scenario reflects one word, one value, one necessary topic that can be taught best via freedom: responsibility. A one-size-fits-all policy restricting student cell phones essentially teaches youth that someone is always going to be there to hold their hand, instead of allowing them to learn personal accountability.
And are we high school students, young adults? As young adults, the tasks of regulating our phones will be on our own hands, not our parents and not our professors. But we're not adults yet, right? How do we learn to balance school and sports? We just do it. We get overwhelmed, but eventually we figure it out. We are trusted to balance school, sports, organizations, clubs, youth groups, jobs, music, and friendships. But we can't balance the phone.
I play 3 sports. I'm president of Y-Link. I run a youth group podcast. I've been in choir for 3 years. I'm a leader in FCA, a member of National Honor Society, and the worst grade I've ever had in high school is 96%. And that has been with my phone in my bag or in my hands all day. If anything, it's taught me how to prioritize my time. It's forced me to grow up, it's taught me responsibility, and it's made me a better, more organized person.
The teachers in the USD 379 school district are arguably some of the best in the state. When we are asked to put away our phones, we do, because we have enough respect for them to do that. Students in our district have the utmost respect for our teachers. We don't need to have an overarching policy to take away the ability for our teachers to manage their own classroom. The tools needed for learning differs from class to class. The teachers need flexibility and trust in teaching their subject. Taking into account all the students that appear in front of you tonight that took away from their time for studying for their finals for 2 straight days and time away from properly preparing for regional sporting events. So before you take a vote tonight, take into account the important issue and how important it is to our entire student body. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Always appreciate it when people come and share their opinion, so always welcome. Is that, all right, so no, nothing received, so now I go back to the consent agenda. Don, I make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
By second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Oh. Reports. Stop the board report here. Positive comments by me on the board.
Okay.
Good.
I can start. I will say that my last couple weeks have been focused around CCCHS high school graduation. So thanks for all who made the Lincoln walkthrough happen for our CCCHS seniors. And if you didn't get a chance to hear the great presentation from Mr. Waller, I know he gives something similar every year, but it's really just a great presentation to the K through 3rd graders about the importance of perseverance. Points out many of high school kids have struggled at some point, but yet they succeeded because they stuck to it. It was also cool to see at one point they had all of the seniors who had participated in a state event of some sort to stand up, and it looked like it was about 3/4 of the senior class. So it was great to see. And then I really enjoyed watching the 5th through 12th grade band concert, and not just because I have a 5th grader and a 12th grader, but it's fun to watch the progression of music from Row, Row, Row Your Boat to really creative musical performances. So if you get a chance to go to that next year, I can encourage you.
Thank you.
2 things. I had the pleasure of attending both Clay Center and Wakefield high school graduations, and that was a joy to watch those students go across the stage and across the floor. Also, That's Entertainment was amazing. That's all I can say. It was just so fun, funny. It just lightened your load in a sense. So it was a joy. Thank you.
I do. Well, thank you. Excuse me. I'd just like to give a shout out to our district forensics, band, vocal students on their outstanding performances this year. They were amazing. Also, our Tiger tennis team on qualifying for state. That was an excellent accomplishment also. And thank you to our district Y-Link youth leaders and sponsors. You have been a wonderful asset in making a positive impact in our schools and our communities. Thank you very much. And also I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to our district employees for their professionalism, dedication, and generosity throughout the entire school year here. So it's been a real blessing. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Sure. I'd like to bring the fact of, with Anita and the TELEC and the meets requirements level determination for that. They do a great job with the, whereas you'll know, just making sure the money's spent right and how it's put into the budget and when you have mistakes, you gotta send it back. And so, appreciate that. Need everything you and the staff do to stay on top of those numbers. You know, the worst that's entertainment. And there's, what do they call the person who stands up there, the two,
DMC.
MC.
yeah, so I was the MC my senior year. Thank God there's not all those telephones around, everybody has a copy of it. So, I couldn't sing, so they let me do that. So, all right, any other comments from the board? All right, then we'll go on to reports. Next is Brett. You got?
I have a few things in there and take any questions if you have any.
So the position at Clay Center High School, what's being absorbed and what's being on your report there?
Yeah, so the work-based learning and the facts and some of those things haven't had any traction on.
So I thought that position was supposed to be 0.5 at Wakefield and 0.5 at Clay Center High School.
It's,
If you're absorbing one part of it
it's,
and
it was like 0.3 and 0.2, I believe. And so, there will still, they're moving some staff around. So number one, Michaela Craig is coming back. You see, she's on the agenda for 0.5. So she's gonna fill in 0.5 of some different classes, and then they're gonna move some other people around to pick up a little bit of facts. We won't have quite as much, so we're reducing there. And then, an existing teacher is going to pick up the 0.5 total with work-based learning is 0.5 for the whole district. And so I think it's 0.3 and 0.2, if I remember right. And so that person will still serve Clay Center High School and Wakefield High School. And it will result in an overall reduction of 0.5 FTE at the high school. But basically, long story short, they move some people in classes around to at least offer a little bit of what we did have. It just won't be as much.
Anything else for Brett? Well, Anita, anything? Might have any questions for Anita off of the report?
How will that work? Or you said that one position that you're not really being able to find any teachers, so when you say that you're gonna. What's the plan without the additional position and then with your shortness of school site?
Tom and I are just gonna help them as much as we can. We've had some teachers that have picked up the loads. In fact, Anne Marie Langley at Wakefield has done a lot of testing to help them out because she's really good at that. And then you can see that we're adding that. Our numbers are high enough there. We're needing to add another teacher to help out there. Her caseload's been at 30 for 2 years and it's not fair.
So that-
Too much.
Yeah,
So-
the only building in the co-op is actually adding teacher FTE is Wakefield, and so Wakefield will receive a
We
position,
have to do
special ed
that.
teacher next year.
but that's through the TLEC, not.
And Anita also, if, and I could be mistaken on this, but the way I understand it, that the district, for instance, under your leadership too, on TLEC was able to receive the honor
Mhm.
from the state, so.
We have, I've been here 7 years and we've gotten it every year. And
Yeah.
we went to a region meeting this week and a lot of the directors said, wow, it's really hard to get that. Well, I feel honored that we've gotten it every year and I hope we can continue to do that, but I thought it was fairly easy to do. Or maybe we just have a well-oiled machine and we're able to do that, but I didn't realize so many people were really struggling to do it. Because if you don't, you lose a lot of, things that you're allowed to get by earning that level, so, and a lot more work you have to do to show how you're gonna correct actions that you're not doing right, so I don't want to do that either.
Good, thank you, Mary.
Thanks.
Anything else for you? If not, Jacqueline's report.
I can do my best if you have any questions. She's attending a banquet for one of her senior bank or athletics banquet for one of her kids. She'll be back after that.
So the summer program, sorry, I was gonna ask her, so we spend basically 170 or 197,000, basically $200,000 a year. And this is the last year we'll have the ESSER fund, and so,
Previous to the ESSER, we did not spend that much money.
so.
It was a much smaller version. We didn't provide transportation. It was part that, you know,
We need to make sure, I guess my thing is, as soon as we get the budget done for this year, and that we need to make sure we start on that early next year, trying to find a way to work in as much of that as possible.
One thing that I'll interject, Project Lead, they are required as part of the grant to do it for a week. And that is something that's the small version that the grant has to, as part of the grant requirements. That we will have a week proven.
so we will always have a version to.
Right, but I want to do as much as we can, you know, I mean, I know a lot of parents contact me how helpful that is, and so I want to make sure that, you know, I don't know what we can do, but we need to start early enough to try to figure out and try to keep as many of those as possible to, or extend as what we can.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
The whole point for us starting that summer learning program that was so robust was to get kids caught up when we took away that quarter of their semester. So before then, we had other things in place that weren't $200,000. And so it's a pretty big request that we would continue a program of that size. And although it is great, it's been great for our kids, it's helped us do great on our state assessments and get our kids back up where they needed to be. I don't feel personally like our school district needs to be funding a program of that size after the ESSER funds run out. But if that's something we are gonna wanna do, then we probably need to look at it before we approve the budget. And we probably aren't gonna just find $200,000 laying around.
We got the ESSER to pay for this year's.
Yeah, this summer's set, this summer's good, but for next, yeah. We wouldn't be able to say like in December, hey, let's do that and find that much money. We're very blessed to get the grants that we do for the after school program. And I know that our teachers and staff work really hard to find whatever grants they can. It's,
So I guess
a
a little
little,
sooner than I thought. But just to kind of, you know what I'm saying, get an idea of what. And maybe we can't do it to the full for yet, but we need to try to do as much as we can. For the results of it, how well it's helped. Just like to look into that. You good with that? Any questions for Bill on Jack and stuff? Very good. Well, we go to, discussion items. And then the first one is the ESSER funds.
So we've talked about this for a couple of months now. You've heard a couple of presentations, and so the closeout budget numbers and things are in there. The letters piece, I believe the state board's voting on that this week, and so not asking to talk about that tonight. Of course, we can answer any questions that you might have. But tonight we would ask that we consider the Leader in Me program, which would be as it's laid out for so.
What do you think the letters be right around 200,000?
Yeah, yeah, and speaking of Project Lead, there was in the ESSER closeout document, you'll see we had, I think, around 43,000 on supplies. So we actually are not using that with an ESSER. We have to spend a certain amount of money with Project Lead each year. And so we're using project lead money to buy those supplies that will be used for summer programming and project lead. So you can reduce that overall estimated leftover by, or increase it by 43,000. So. If we increase extra duty pay, it would impact letters cost. And that's something the association is asked to talk about during negotiations, so just. So I guess it could change some if we would increase the cost of extra duty.
Yes, my biggest hang up, I guess we can talk about is doing all 4 years at once. You know, we save a little bit of money, but also there's a lot of things on that ESSER list that we could take care of. The subscription and everything. And is it an option to pay for it year by year?
You can, but you wouldn't have ESSER money to do it.
I don't know. We'd have that ESSER money to take care of some other things without, why not paying for all those subscriptions and the 2 swings that we talked, that's on the list. Something else that was on the list. So that would be a way that I'd rather than commit to something for 4 years and then all of a sudden, I just think how things change and how fast they go. I would like to, look at it as a 1-year deal and then pay for it again as we go.
Yeah. I mean, I think anything's possible. Since I've been here, this is something the staff has been asking about and trying to find a way to help support, student behaviors, social emotional stuff with them that affect the academics. And so the problem has always been, we've never had available funds to be able to do something like this. And so that would be my only concern, would be what funds we would use in the future to pay for it if we didn't use ESSER. That would be my concern.
One of the next few years we could use is some of that we're saving and pay for all those subscriptions and all that in one time. Again, that's money that could go. I mean, it would definitely pay for at least 1 more year later on. I'm just wondering what the hard part would be if we just did the 1 year and then evaluate and again do the 1 year to rather than make this full commitment to 4 years. I don't know if anybody else.
Kind of my analogy is, so, one program that has been very well received and something that we've learned through research is, especially as it relates to PD. We've learned over the years that sending a group of teachers to learn about a program 1 or 2 times and then having them coming back and implementing it, to make that systemic within the organization and sustainable over time, generally doesn't work very well. Because we go to 1 or 2 PDs, we come back really excited, and then we try to implement it, we get caught up in the whirlwind. And then it doesn't become systemic within the system. And so the idea of looking at something over a longer period of time, where there's continuous training, where there's continuous implementation, it becomes ingrained into your climate and culture. And so that's something that we've tried to do, and we emulated that kind of thought process. And how can we make things embedded into the system across the whole district with our alphabetic phonics program, which is a reading intervention program. And so the example there is, instead of saying, yeah, we're going to implement this great reading program, and we pick 2 or 3 teachers to go to a training and then come back and implement it. Alphabetic phonics is a 3-year program. And so what I mean by that is the teacher goes to a 2-week training in the summer. Then they implement it in year 1, and the program comes into our schools and watches them and coaches them alongside them 5 times a year. Then they go to another training the following summer. And then again, for the 2nd year, the program comes in 5 times a year and coaches and observes and gives feedback to implement it. And then they go to another 2-week summer training. And then in year 3, they come back a third time. And the idea behind that longer term commitment is that it becomes systemic. It becomes ingrained into the climate and culture, and it's not just, for lack of better terms, a one-hit wonder where you try to do these things. We tried that with Top 20 a couple of years ago. It was really great stuff. We brought them in, and you spend a lot of money. Every time you bring somebody in, it can be $5,000 to $8,000 a day. And again, it was great stuff. We bought some books. We had them come in 2 or 3 days. But by the end of the year, the year ended, we didn't circle back to it the next year. It just kind of drizzles out and doesn't become a part of climate culture. So that would be my only concern with not committing to a longer term approach, that we could risk spending money and not seeing that maximized benefit to our kids and our staff.
But if we paid it each year, we wouldn't get all those benefits.
Yeah, we could, I know how we all know how school finance works, and things come up and.
Sure.
That's my
priorities
question, if
change.
you get it year by year, where are you gonna come up with the money if they spend all this money?
Like I say, the first couple of years will be that from paying all these subscriptions off early.
You mean this Schoology, Panorama, and Ingenuity?
Yeah,
Is that what you're talking about?
yeah. Yep. There's about 140,000 there. If you did the 3-year ones for all them, that saves about $140,000.
Yeah, but you only got 511,000 to spend. So.
Right.
If you spend 185,000 on that other stuff, that doesn't leave you a whole lot.
So I've got it's a unique perspective in that I have kids that went through Lincoln before they started the Leader in Me Light. And I've got kids who went partially through, and I've got kids who had Leader in Me culture in their system all the way through. And it does make a huge difference at the high school level, at the middle school level, how those kids behave. Now, John's is going to middle school yet, so who knows, he could just still turn evil. But at this point, they really do it develops the culture for them. So like the Leader in Me program, from my perspective, is something that's proven to be successful. When I look at Schoology, Panorama, and Ingenuity, those are technologies that software that could change, that have their issues, that sometimes people want to throw their computer for. And from my perspective, that's more risky for us to commit to 5 years to Schoology, Panorama, and Ingenuity than it is to commit to the Leader in Me. But again, that's just because I've seen the proof of putting in my own house.
My concern is just with mine and the older kids, which living like that, but, and just the goal, it's important.
It's significant amount of
So
money.
what's the time frame on that Leader in Me? I mean, how many years? For that
3
amount
to
of money?
4, depending on how you look at it. It's a year 0 where you onboard staff first. And you get staff trained, you get the buy-in, you develop the systems that are gonna be in place. And then year 1 is the first year of implementation with students. And timeline in regards to any kind of these programs that are, known worldwide and implemented in the business world and the school world, you need to book at least a year in advance to get your trainers here. I don't know if that's what you mean by timeline, but.
Well, no, I'm just saying, so this money here is gonna do what, 3 years, 4 years?
Technically 4, yeah.
So about 85,000 a year.
District wide.
Yeah.
So it's 85,000 divided by 1,300 cost per pupil.
Well, I don't know if that's 85,000. I was doing that in my head.
Yeah,
so.
well, I don't do mental math. That's why I was asking you what it's gonna be.
327 divided by 4. That's about 82, 80, huh? 65. 327 divided by 4. 320 divided by 4 is 80.
I will say, and I won't say anything after this, but from the feedback that we got from the staff was they said, sometimes we'll try this thing and then this, just school districts in general, the pendulum swings, like we try one thing, then we try another thing. And so I don't know that it would be as helpful if you tried a year, because if people are gonna be all in, I think if they're gonna go through all the training and everything, they wanna know, like, are we actually gonna follow this through? Because if you're gonna ask me to do all this work just for 1 year and we're not committed to it, that's a lot to ask for the staff. So I just wanted to share that for their sake. Because that was the feedback I got was like, I want to do this, but I don't want to do this one, you know, and then we don't follow it through. I don't want to do that.
I move to give final approval to purchase leader in me not to exceed 327,000. 327,000 from ESSER 3 funds. My glasses.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor? All right, all those opposed? Motion passes 5-2. Is the budget planning?
Yeah, so this is kind of information
Oh,
only.
I got a question, yeah. So the rest of this stuff we're not gonna talk about, or what are we doing?
The hope would be that we wait until we know what the state board's doing with letters. They're supposed to be doing that today or tomorrow at the state board meeting, so the hope would be that in June, we finalize the rest of ESSER. Once we know exactly what gets passed through the state board.
Well, I'm just gonna say those bottom line 29, 30, and 31, if that's something we really need, we just need to get it bought out of capital outlay and move on with it. Or $69,000 for what that is.
Yeah. And we have those in the capital outlay plan for next year, so.
I agree.
That would leave money for something else.
I
That's
agree completely. Yeah, once we know what that letters is gonna.
well, that's fine, but I'm just saying those three items there, if
Yep.
that's something we really need.
I agree.
I mean, for $69,000, I mean, need to get it bought and move on.
Yeah, so I'll just run through some highlights and then take some questions. But again, this is kind of a 3 to 4 month process. And this is really, we've been working on it since January and February and doing our needs assessment and collecting that information and what are the needs of the building. We've included some of their requests, especially related to staffing and some other items in there. Now that the school finance formula is passed and through with 513,000 in additional base aid per pupil. Additionally, the 75 million in state general fund for SPED. At 100, that's our share of that would be 135,000. And for everyone that knows, I know I talk about this a lot, but we have been traditionally supplementing from LOB or general fund about $700,000 a year. So this will help supplement that, offset that transfer that we have to make to Fund 30. And if you've read some of the stuff coming through the state, it looks like the appropriation is probably gonna come through a special flow through payment in February so that we know that money, instead of flowing through our 06 fund and over to 78, it'll flow into our Fund 30. And again, that will offset our transfer over to Fund 30 each year, which will help. At risk, we continue to see a pretty big increase in students that qualify, both on a student level and both on a school and district level. And so students qualify, we get a 0.485 weighting to help support that student. And then if a building or the district qualifies for high density, it translates into weighted funding through a portion of an FTE or base aid per pupil. And then that money all flows into general fund and LOB. And 2 years ago, the school finance formula required that all districts start transferring from LOB into at-risk also. And so our transfer last year was around 1.1, and this year it's going to be over 1.3. And so, and then there's the research or evidence-based list, and you can only spend monies out of at-risk based on that evidence-based list. That is changing moving forward. And so we have used what they call class size reduction as a way to spend our at-risk dollars because we do have such a low student teacher ratio in our district compared to the state or nationally, that is a research evidence-based practice to spend at-risk dollars on because you have smaller class sizes. And so there's some changes with that. And so we're going to have to do some reallocations and get creative on how we utilize those at-risk dollars. But the bottom line is we do have an increase there also Health insurance is huge. They're telling us 19% increase right now. For us, that would be about $200,000 or $207,000 to account for. However, the pool is going back out to bid. And so, I don't know when we will know, but they hired a broker to go out to bid on the pool's behalf. And so, that could change, but it might be mid to late summer before we know. I have not seen a timeline on when they will figure some of that out. So we'll see. And so, a little later, we'll talk about negotiations, but I think with CCA, not knowing that we need to get negotiations done, I think my opinion would be that we enter into negotiations budgeted with for the 19% increase. And if it ends up better, we figure out what we're gonna do then, but I don't think we can afford to wait until July or August to ratify with the association. So that's just my 2 cents on that. We did have some staffing addition requests as it relates to, funding for next year. And as everyone knows, we have the one pot of money that we get in base aid per pupil. We have some additional in sped that we could, it seems awkward to say we have additional in sped. Is all the additional sped money is doing is giving us money back to general fund and LOB that should be spent on all kids, not just sped. And so I even should learn to say it differently because it's not additional money for sped programming. It's reimbursing us the costs that we're already spending out of 08 and 06. And so, but anyhow, we did have some staffing requests. Number one, low satisfaction, high engagement factor in our EPIC survey that we did have 100% of our certified teachers take was extra or additional need for student behavioral support. Lincoln Elementary currently has the lowest or the highest student to teacher ratio. They did have 5 sections of first grade, so to accommodate their request to help support, and it could help other schools too, but their ratio by far is larger than any other building in our district. And so the recommendation would be that they reduce a section of first grade. So they had 5, go down to 4 sections and use that FTE. It's not a cost increase, but to use that position or FTE to help support behavior within the building. And so I think there's a sample job description in there for you to look at too, to kind of give you an idea of what that might look like. At Wakefield, they did ask for some more FTE for art and library support. So one idea was similar to what we did with Lincoln. And again, this is an idea. This isn't, this has to be done, or this is the way to do it, but might be an option for that building and Mr. Moneypenny, the new principal, to consider, because the first grade for next year has 7 students and it looks like there's 7 to 10 coming in kindergarten. That would be a class around 14 to, 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there, which is a very reasonable class size. They could consider doing a combo and then using the extra person to help teach some art or help cover the library, but might be similar to an option as Lincoln is.
And you have that FTE from Jordan Carlson not coming back. I mean, what do you got there?
Well, work-based learning, the person who's taking that over is gonna do both buildings.
Well, you say that, but I don't think Jordan came to Wakefield all year, so.
And there's a team that's really been working on that. Our struggle has been trying to get kids to participate because of proximity. And so they've been getting really creative. They've had some speakers come down. They've had some ideas on where they can get some work-based learning experience closer to home. And so some things that just hadn't been talked about. And I don't know, Robert, do you know do we have, last I heard, we had some kids signing up for work-based learning at Wakefield.
I heard words.
We have
Okay.
2 that would like to.
Good, but we need to get that going. Why should a junior or a senior, if they have all their credits, sit at school and do something they don't want to do? You can go work on the farm, you can help, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of positions. We just got to get that buy-in. And you're right, Jeff, we can do better
Yeah,
on
I mean,
being
because
more
it wasn't,
engaged,
it wasn't there at all.
and we're working on that.
You
and
know,
that
we
is a
talk about
major
combo
goal.
classrooms and we spent all this year with 28 kids in the first grade and it was a disaster. And you know, it was a disaster. All the way from Anita's end to your end to the principal's end. And now we're talking about doing a combo class, so we have 17 and you're still gonna have 28 in the second grade.
And we hired the aide for that.
Well, I understand, but that's not, I mean, we should have thought about combining some of that last year. And we
I don't
didn't do it.
disagree.
Yeah, and we didn't do it, so, I mean, we gotta do what's right for one building that we're doing what's right for another building. So,
We probably did discuss that going into last year.
and we never did nothing.
I think the building asked us not to.
I think my understanding is the building should not do.
Yeah, but it was discussed last summer about
That
combining that
probably should have been overrid, but
because
yeah,
of,
higher.
because of the
Yeah.
small seven.
I mean, I don't disagree with it. Hindsight's always 20/20. Yeah. And again, these are just options, not that. we
I
have to
understand, I
commit to
understand,
anything, but
gotta put it all on the table.
yeah, just trying to look at kind of everything all together.
And the one thing that's different about the library over there, it is K through 12. You know, it's everybody. It's not. I mean, I think we can use the extra help in the library without a doubt.
Well, there's things that could go on in there that don't go on because there's no supervision.
Joe, you have a library in Lincoln that's got the 3 or 4 grades, and Garfield has got 2. Up there, it's K through 12, all trying to use the same library, so like. That's something that I would like to see us consider is helping out with that library situation.
And you know, when we have admin meetings and even at DLT, you know, the reality is in the district, if you look at us big picture, a 1 to 13 student ratio, we have plenty of, and this is me speaking, and this might offend some people, but in my opinion, we have plenty of staff. We just need to challenge ourselves to look a little bit differently about how we can use our staff creatively and differently, but we have a really solid staff to student ratio. But to get out of our own, we gotta get out our own creative minds and look at what we have and how we might be able to use things differently to accommodate different needs. That's Brett's opinion, but I believe we have plenty of staff. We just need to be able to challenge ourselves to look at how we can use it a little bit differently and that are still really, really good ways for students. So, and I think there's some things to do it. It's just in education. Sometimes we get caught up in our own minds and we have a hard time at looking at things differently. And that's on me too, to try to encourage our staff to do that and help them think of different creative ways.
So is the request for 1 FTE for an art teacher and 1 for library support?
Half.
Half of each.
I think that one deal said half and half. Well, the library would be, see, that's the thing. It's an FTE for the art teacher is certified. The library aide would be classified. So you can't put them,
Could be.
well, you could, but you know, it's 2 different pay grades, you know, as far as that goes, so. But that would be, you know, in
Tricky
the,
to hire.
well, it depends on who you hire. That's right.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, the sub-rate of pay, that's something that we put a lot of effort towards a couple of years ago. 2 years ago, that was lowest satisfaction, highest engagement on the EPIC survey. We implemented the district-wide substitute, did a few other things. We got through COVID too, and we got more people back naturally too, but that's now rated as moderate satisfaction. So we focused on it, we made some effort, and so we want to continue that momentum, so increasing that sub rate of pay a little bit to get that, and then trying to ensure that we keep that third school nurse. That's highly important. Those 3 for 5 buildings is hard, but the KDHE grant is going to extend through another year, so we wouldn't have to account for that through general fund. But again, just in the future, I think that is a great need that we need to continue.
Can you explain something to me?
Sure.
It's actually back on the 3rd paragraph, that every % of LOB collections we reduce for losing out on state aid.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So every district in the state can receive up to the state average % of LOB. So next year is probably gonna be about 32%. This year it was around 31. And so In LOB, we're at what, 35% state aid right now? So for every dollar we collect, 34 cents comes back to us in aid. And aid means it's money from Lawrence, Blue Valley, Wichita. It's from wealthier district. When we rank from 1 to 286, we get ranked and then we get state aid based on our rate. Well, for every percent that we don't collect to the maximum, we're leaving that money on the table, if that makes sense. We're leaving money on the table that comes from outside our community, that's free to us. It's basically a free grant that just comes to us. And so when we don't budget for the maximum percent in LOB, we lose out on the equivalent of aid. The challenge is you have to bring your to capture all of the aid, you have to increase your levy or your tax collections. Most of the time they go hand in hand. Sometimes they don't, but 99% of the time they're gonna go hand in hand. So it's the chicken and the egg. If you don't budget to receive all of that, which a portion of it is local tax dollars. So like last year, we stayed at 30%, I think. And so we left 1% on the table. And when you're talking $3.3 million a person, it adds up pretty quick. And so that's a decision we're gonna have to make. Once we get the software, once we know where our rank is, once we know what our state aid is for next year, we don't know that number yet. We'll need to plug all of that in and I can show you guys some options. Here's what it would look like if we went up to the 32%. Here's what it looks, but no, if we go to 32%, that's gonna increase the total taxes collected, but it's also gonna increase the amount of aid we get. Or we could stay at 30%. We'd miss out, we'd leave whatever the number is on the table of state aid, but we keep tax revenue down. So. Does that help?
Yeah.
And so tonight, the main thing would be just making sure, even though it's a grant funded program, it's not gonna hit general fund. Just wanna make sure you guys are on board with us keeping that third district nurse. Again, I think it's highly, highly important. And then, do the swap of this first grade section for a behavioral support person.
Is that person gonna use that room?
That room or there's, I don't know for sure. I think Matt has some plans to move some people around, but there will be a space for them.
And that person will be at Lincoln full-time?
It's a district person. Their primary first duty is Lincoln, but if we have difficult kiddos in another building where somebody needs some help and support, we will deploy them. So they're not gaining any staff, I think.
So that position is different than the 0.5 counselor you have listed on this budget workshop?
It's kind of doing both, if that makes sense. If it happens to be a person that has a counseling certification, fine, but the purpose of that counselor was additional behavioral support. And so it kind of accomplishes.
So, I mean, on this, you have 0.5 at Lincoln, 0.5 at Garfield.
That was their request.
But you're saying to stay at Lincoln unless somebody else needs it.
Yes. And if you look at staff student ratios on that sheet I sent you guys, I believe that data supports the need to keep that staff number there. But again, by far, they have the largest staff to student ratio of any building.
How many kindergartners are coming in next year?
Matt thinks about 80.
80?
Do you know how many kids at Lincoln have an IEP?
I'd say 60 roughly.
And again, this is year one. We're gonna try it. You know, like there's, a year or two ago, like Garfield had a really, really tough kid. And if that was the case and we need to look at that and having them go over there a couple days a week, they could. if, you know, there's a tough kid in especially elementary is where this person's focused. At Wakefield Elementary and Telek is struggling to find support, or we need some additional support, we can build in some time there too. But the primary location would be.
And it says 22% of the kids have an IEP at Lincoln, which would be 85 kids.
How many?
85,
But how big of a percent?
22.
That's more than 22%.
Oh, wait.
There's only
Yeah,
150 kids in
sorry.
that building.
Lincoln?
There's three.
Oh, I thought you said Garfield.
No, 384.
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Yeah.
52 without speech, not including speech, I know that.
And I mean, keeping in mind that one of the things that the teachers really want us and staff is that they want to have a safe place to work. And this position would help get in that extra support staff so that we can provide them with extra safety. Is there anything else we need to look ahead on as far as the June to make sure our budget meets its deadline, since we're talking about budget?
You know, the big thing that changed a few years ago with R&R, you know, we used to have until August, and now everything is due to the county clerk by July 20th. And so,
19.
which means that we basically have to have everything done. And so it puts us in a bit of a pickle because most of the time we don't get the software till the end of June. And then when you throw in the 4th of July holiday and how that messes with things, and by the time we hit the July board meeting, can make it extremely difficult to get how many ever hundreds of pages the budget is done. And so something that I did want to toss out tonight, thank you for reminding me, was the possibility of potentially moving our July board meeting date to give us a little bit more time to get that information to you guys before we have to get it to the county clerk. So,
Is that okay with paying bills?
Yeah, would it help with angles?
Well, would that be a problem?
In July, I can't write a check until I actually roll the software, which is an added thing, which I can't do until we do the bank reconciliation. So the bank statements come on a Saturday, which means, I mean, we come in and do that anyhow, it just kind of, but we have to roll the right checks. I can give you a list of invoices and tell you what we're going to pay, but it won't have assigned check numbers or any of that until we actually do it. There's a couple of days that we can work with it, but we're doing that at the same time that we're trying to budget. So, and with the July meeting date on the 8th right now, and the board agenda going live the Thursday before, basically,
is the 4th of July.
is the 4th of July, so we have to do it on Wednesday.
I mean, if you guys would be amenable, if you want to just set it on the 15th, if you could do that instead of the 8th, I think that would relieve a lot of.
And next year, we have the full 2 weeks. I mean, it's just the way the holidays, how it falls.
So which date you want to do it, then?
The 15th of July?
I'll make the motion. I move that we move the July board meeting to July 15th. Same time, same place.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. There'll be some happy campers here. Sorry, probably already is.
And then, I'll move to get final approval to continue employing a 3rd district nurse and to hire a behavioral support staff member for, you know, school.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. What do we need to, I want to pursue this, the library thing. Wait, how do you want to handle that? Over the next month, try and figure out.
Yeah, so the big thing would be, we would need to include it in some of our projections for negotiations, because it's gonna have to come out of the pot of money. So whatever we would do would reduce the amount that we could give out in compensation to staff and teachers.
Could
So
we,
that's,
could we get a look at their current library availability, like when is Lynn down, if we filled in available and when is the gaps, and also looking at art as far as like what if we added a half person, where would they be? What space would they have? What hours would they have?
So when is the librarian at?
Yeah,
Okay,
and when do we have the gaps? If we added an art position, where and when would they be able to offer additional classes?
sure. Yeah, I can
And
bring that back to you next month. We got plenty of time.
If not art, the other, again, I'm not an educator, that we are working on this literacy effort district-wide. Would it be possible to combine like a halftime literacy enhancement, focusing on that dyslexia topic? Maybe that would fit better with halftime library position.
I can bring that back next month when we talk about it. The hope would be, it's probably a lofty goal, but I think there's a chance we might be able to come to an agreement with CCA between now and the June meeting. And so at any rate, that might be something, if we can do that, then it would just speed up the process of some of these other schools. I mean, that might be lofty, but the key is we want to be done before July if possible, because if we're not ratified before July 1, and then we have to go retro pay everybody starting on whenever we do ratify between July 1 and whenever the date of ratification is, and that is pretty difficult because you're crossing fiscal years. And
You also have to build the software on real salary numbers, and so it does impact.
anyhow, we'll stay tuned on that.
Capital outlay.
So again, this has been something you guys have been talking about since February. I don't want to read a report to you that you've seen 3 months now. I think the biggest thing to highlight would be we priority ranked everybody's, you guys' votes, admin votes that included votes from their BLTs, and we prioritized, totaled them all together, put kind of a cut line on where we thought we could get to, and prioritize those in the schedule. And I just, in my disclaimer every year when I do capital outlay is all we're asking for kind of overall approval is, yep, these are our focus areas for next year. The years afterwards always flow based on need, what comes up. So we would be looking at that, and Tracy had an interesting idea when it came to the activity bus, and kind of threw out, well, what if you cross fiscal years? And that might work. And so we've talked internally about how we get that done, physically do that. And we feel like if that's what you guys want to do, that we have a plan that we can carry that out. Basically, we carry that money at the end of the year over to the next. And
We wouldn't have that big hit all in 1 year.
And again, the reason for activity bus, Mike in the audience, it's our current large activity bus has air brakes, and getting somebody air brake certified, and it's about to phase out of its life.
One of them, yeah.
One of them is, yeah.
Yeah,
And so would be a non-air brake activity bus.
that's the name.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're gonna try to do, I talked to you a little bit about the way, foundation thing, so.
Yeah, so Cobb Valley said, just keep an eye on that. And so we could fit it over there, and I don't know if maybe we have them come back out next year and just see if it's deteriorated any, because they said it could have been there for 20 years, could have been there for 2, but just keep an eye on it. If it hasn't changed, it's not something that you need to be real concerned about, is my recollection from the Cobb Valley engineers report. So,
Jeff, you have any thoughts on that?
What's that?
To wait a year on that foundation, see if it changes in a year? I mean, the longer you wait, it's gonna get more expensive,
I don't think it's going anywhere, but
so.
like you say, if you wait another year or 2 years or 3 years, it's gonna go from 100,000 to 500,000, the way things are going. But it's a pretty extensive project too. I mean, if you're gonna cut a hole in that classroom and then you're gonna have to redo the floor and everything else.
So we can bring him back.
You know, if we do that, we need to go as far that way down that tunnel as we can go, and as far as that way down that tunnel we can go.
Good question.
That way we're not going back in there trying to redo it later on.
Good question. So I think maybe later this fall, bring him back in to look at it and just see if it's changed any. Then we can address that.
So when we talk about the proposed motion, we're looking at the 5-year capital improvement plans.pdf. Is that specifically,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one?
you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I kept, there's a lot of documents for us to review, so making sure. we're-
Another thing that we don't have on that plan is, you know, we talk about this track and the track and everything up here and 10-year life or 12-year life. The Wakefield track's gonna be 10 years old this fall.
So I see the same
It's
thing.
it's starting to show some cracks and it's starting to show some wear and tear, but it's something we need to, even if it's 2 or 3 years from now, and you get 12 years out of it or whatever, but it's something we need to think about.
yeah.
But it's the same thing on the turf on the football field.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that's gonna hit us with the
Well,
big
yeah,
expense.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, you know, we redo those, the time of that, or the life of that track rubber, there's some other water issues on one part of it, and a few other things that probably we need to find a place for it, even if it's 2 or 3 years down the road.
Right.
But we need to put it on there.
I'll have somebody come out and look at it.
Well, yeah, I just think down at that south end where they have the start of the 100 and the hurdles and stuff, there's a pretty good dip in the concrete. You know, things like starting to show wear and tear, so, but it is gonna be 10 years old, so.
The one thing that's not a capital outlay that Jeff mentioned on Esther is the handicap swings. I don't know if you could put that on capital outlay. Yeah, 8,000. Look at that.
So I
These
always,
force curving machines, is this in addition to the ones we already put in?
same thing,
Okay,
yeah, so
Same
they
thing.
can,
okay,
you know,
okay. So either way, however the money works out, we'll get it. We're making sure we're doing that.
right, yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, we could, Jason, certainly, and those are things too that grants always come available too, that we're kind of keeping an eye out for too. Like, and even if it's a matching one, if we needed to come in and spend 4,000, I think we could, but yeah, I mean, if you guys want to move it over and have a problem with that, it still keeps, I'm comfortable as long as we stay above 800.
I think is however the ESSER money works out, whatever, I agree with whatever doesn't work out under ESSER. We move over to capital outlay and take care of it.
Is this gonna be kind of the last year for flooring?
Gosh, I hope so. We're getting close.
I mean,
We're
we've
getting-
been,
We're getting darn close. The answer is no, not 100%, but we are getting.
surely we're
very
gonna be
close.
gone with the bad tile, surely.
We're getting, yeah, we're getting very close. So
That's a sign I've been here too long.
just in time to probably
Start
hit the
over, start
10 or
over,
15
start
year
over.
mark and start.
Start over.
They're not doing any roofing projects.
Next year, I think there's 2 big ones that we'll watch them like we always do. And if we can push them another year with comfortability, we will. And they'll come out and core drill them and make sure that we're in good shape, but they're close. The worst one is the shop roof at the high school.
That's the 208 in 25, 26.
And then there's one.
One at Lincoln for 152.
And those are the old rubber roofs that still have the seams in them. They're not TPO.
I think your number on that gym floor at Clay Center High School is a little short.
It might be. I keep pushing it out there as long as we can too, because it's.
That's a pretty big floor. You know, when you go wall to wall. So we're adding the 92 and the 58, and that's gonna cover the lighting and the painting and the electrical and everything at the auditorium and the curtains.
So it's what if you guys would approve it. Probably would get on it as soon as we could this summer, and we would take the scopes that we do have. And then we would put that into an RFP packet. And that way everyone's bidding on the same scope, and then we would put that out for or your traditional RFP low bid type process. We feel pretty comfortable in the potential partners that whoever won it, I think we would be very safe with.
Other questions?
So are you thinking that with state, the way things are going, that we should increase our mill levy back to 8? Or not?
We give up for every mill that we don't take in capital outlay, we're giving up state aid.
It's the same thing as the.
Yeah,
And so
We're considering.
well. Okay,
I just, until we get the software, we know where our assessed valuation, we come, the hope would be that we take another really low increase in assessed valuation again, that's gonna keep us levy or getting even more aid than we have, because we took such drastic drops the last 3 years. But remember, LOB's on a 3-year average, so we're not done with the 3-year average yet, so we're probably still go down again there. But maybe in bond and capital outlay will come up a little bit if we have another steady assessed valuation year. So, with the truck, with the grounds truck, that is a used price with all the equipment, and so we'll have to get creative on if we do shop auctions and things like that. On how we accomplish that, because,
The 87's a used price.
yeah,
It's, I think 50's the truck and the others, the attachments and everything go with it.
and so we're not ready for that, but it's likely if we follow some of the, if you do a government auction or, Dave mentioned some military sites, but we're probably gonna have to, if you guys agree on that price, I think the conduit's gonna be, you're gonna probably need to consider giving us the authority to spend up to a certain amount so that we can monitor an auction and get it bought as long as we stay within the approved price. The only piece I'm confused on a little, need to learn more about is we're still spending over 20, so how do we put out an RFP on something we don't even know what it is yet? So I'll be back to talk to you guys about that and what I learned.
Yeah, there's ways to do that, 'cause I know in K-State, if like, you can't find something you want, if you can find something comparable on a used lot, and then you justify it by the cost savings by buying used and stuff, the state can do that without the
Traditional.
the traditional bid process.
I'll put that in my list too. Won't be till probably after we get through this budget and get through July and August, I would imagine, before we start really getting serious stuff.
That truck gonna hold up that long?
Yeah, thanks, it's just Jason, it's
Anything else on the 24-25? That problem?
We need the motion.
Yep.
I move to give final approval to the 2024-25 capital outlay plans.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Food service. They like to say on the food service.
I don't want to bore you with any information that you don't need. I think it's written, but we're under a 5-year contract. This would be renewing that at less than the allowable increase and still have nothing but positive feedback from Charlotte.
I move to give final approval to extend the current food service management contract with Chartwell's for the 2024-25 school year. Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Stephen Hamlin.
So we put a. Well, hello.
That's how to respond.
You all in? This is a surprise.
You can come on down.
don't think we can let all you guys speak. It might take a little long.
Open session was an hour and
Okay, so we did, with handbooks, we wanted, you guys asked for some change and some options and some language, and so we tried to listen to kind of some of that feedback that you provided us and give you a couple of options to look at. We did tweak the original language was pretty open and flexible and tried to tighten that up a little bit to just ensure that, instructional time is focused and purposeful. And then we gave a really tight option. Some school districts would one of you guys grab one of those, see them gray things behind you? Would you mind just? Yeah. There you go. You know what this is? Guys are so quiet. So this is a bag. In some districts, if you're a 60-minute watcher, I saw an episode on a while ago, but some districts are moving to a model like this. And that would be the tightest, most restrictive option. And so they come in, the kids would come in and in the morning, put their cell phone in it. And then, sorry guys, and then they lock. And then there's one of them in every room. And so at the end of the day or whenever you wanted to have them, they put it on there like that. And you push it there. And then it comes open. And so we borrowed some, as an option for you, some language from a neighboring district and put some potential language in there. But I think you will see that option one is a little bit more restrictive than it was before. In regards to the high school language related to cell phone use and, it still allows some teacher autonomy, but does clarify that, instructional purposes should be the focus, so. And then the second handbook piece was summer consequences. Some were asked about the possibility of summer consequences for a drug and alcohol policy to apply to the next season. And so we put some options in there for you on those two to consider for handbooks.
But having thoughts on the handbooks?
Last week I asked Brett to run a report on computer usage. And so Ben ran it, I can't remember the name of the app. It doesn't matter, but from May 2nd to May 9th, there were 6.8 million websites blocked. Average of 4,900 per user. Snapchat was blocked 515,000 times in a week. TikTok, 115,000. Streaming media, 199,000. But the most concerning one to me was on Monday, not today, but last Monday, between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m., 1.4 million websites were blocked. So
do you take that as our filter's doing a good job blocking?
I think so. And I think it shows me how distracted our kids are.
Well, I would say that some of those websites will be hit not by the students going to look for them. Like, pull up another site and that pops up and things like that. That's what the ad blocker does. It doesn't mean our students are necessarily going to follow websites. It can be automatically generated. Now, and I'd also like to know how many of those are middle schoolers. That would be an interesting stat to me. Just again, for my own kids, I know in middle school, we have to tighten it tighter in middle school. And by the time they're a senior, I think like she alluded to that, who's gonna suffer the consequences if I don't do my work? And that's kind of that progression.
Hey, I'd like to make a comment on sites that get blocked. I coach volleyball and I went on the American Volleyball Coaches Association. It let me in. I clicked on a drill and it blocked it because it said game. So there's a lot of sites that get blocked for innocuous reasons. So,
Google clip art gets blocked often too. If you search an animal for a kid's presentation, it gets blocked.
Yeah, we couldn't go to ESPN when we were writing argumentative essays in my class, and we were trying to find research to support our teams. Yeah, the word faith is flawed. Sorry, Mara. So, I mean, it's, yeah.
One of the videos that my professor assigned for my psychology class was blocked. Yeah, so I couldn't do the assignment because of this.
And I've had the same thing come up and I've had to resort to using my phone because I can't get it on my computer.
We've had to send a link from Canvas onto our phones via Gmail so that we can do ours.
And I'm glad the system works. And I'm glad the blocker is working. And I'm glad they found a workaround for at least college classes. So they can-
You know, I filed private relay was the highest at 5.6.
Private relay.
Basically makes you invisible. Can't track it.
I'll just say this, is that, so I appreciate all of you coming here. And, from my standpoint, where I'm coming from is, you know, from being a college coach and doing the meetings and that, I taught 1 year in high school a long time ago. Is that this isn't about being mean and it simply comes down to, there's a couple things. One is it is a distraction. If it's on, it is a distraction when it goes off. It breaks up time of thought and that. Number two is, what's so wrong when you get some free time in class of actually talking to each other more? You know, it'd be so much more social rather than get the text out and I mean, so I'm of the fact that socially it's better if you don't have access to it during, or it's shut off during the class. And, I also think that, the communication part will be extremely better than always looking at your phone. And that's me and in my experiences, going on. You're gonna, all of you also are gonna end up to where you get jobs someday, and believe it or not, you can't have that phone when you work. It's gotta be shut off. And so, I think there's plenty of science out there that, in my opinion, that shows that people are more productive without having a cell phone on in the classroom. So, but I do, you know, I'm one vote. Plus, we'll see what the options are here, but I appreciate that you all coming out. It's important to you. We have to make a decision that's best for student success, what the majority of us think is best for student success. And that's what we're gonna do tonight. So.
I have a couple of state standards to read to the group if you guys don't mind. This one's under Kansas Computing Science Model Standard, and I can give you the number if you want. Develop a code of conduct, explain and practice grade level appropriate behavior and responsibilities while participating in an online community. That is a state standard given to us by state Kansas. And then there's another one, I'm gonna have to dig to find, that's under the Kansas Standards for Library and Informational Literacy, which is a 20-page document. Unfortunately, I lost where it was on that, but it also talks about basically technology literacy. So there's more than one place where it is our responsibility as a school board to teach these kids to be digital citizens. So it does mean teaching them to turn their phones off, hanging them in the bag, getting them out of their hands, having them off, having them in silent mode. I think that is part of our responsibility, but it's also teaching them to use it as an effective tool. Again, what I've seen at Garfield, example, I tried to email my son at Garfield to remind him to turn in a paper, and he couldn't get the email because even my emails couldn't go through to him. So he had that level of blockage at Garfield. It was annoying to me as a parent, but I thought, great job as an educator. At the middle school, I don't want my kid to have it. They don't. My kids don't get one until after they graduate middle school. But my senior, I want her to learn how to have it on her and know she doesn't have to touch it. So I kind of like the fact that we leave it to the teachers so that when they're teaching freshmen or when they're teaching seniors, that they have that ability to adapt. I do like the additional wording too, where it says that we did tighten up that, right? We made it a little bit more like, hey, it's gonna be off, it's gonna be.
The only thing is if you look at it though, it says silent mode. I think it should be off during instructional time. That the teacher, the way this is, then the teacher could tell them to turn it on and they can use it.
but
So the reason to not do that is medical devices. My own child has a seizure device watch that has to have her phone on. So if she has a seizure, it alerts us and we can get her medical help. Everybody that's diabetic,
Exception.
yeah,
For
and you
medical
can't,
purpose.
it's better to not write it so strict that you have to add exceptions. There's diabetes, there's also mental health, apps on your smartwatch that will tell you when your anxiety level is getting to a certain point. I'll be like mine is right now. And it will help you to, hey, you're starting to freak out, take some breaths, calm down. So that's the nice of having it silent mode. It won't alarm, but it will still let their medical devices.
and, you know, in that retrospect also, then if it's a medical necessity, then would it also suffice for, let's say, the district, and I know other districts have done this too, my research, but they request a medical provider note provided to the district to state that it is a medical necessity that this child, for instance, has
Yes.
to test glucose, et cetera, et cetera. So that to me is not out of bounds by any means to even ask for that type of language.
Then we would need to be sure to include that. So we need to be aware of other exceptions out there. The one for mental health, I don't know that you're gonna get a medical note on every student that's having anxiety and other issues like that, but, I already forgot what the plan is called for medical,
Bio.
yeah. So most of them would hardly have a 504, but.
You know, the only thing else that I'm concerned about, and it's with social media. It being that this is one way to transport social media and has been for quite some time now. Using their smartwatches and their phones, for instance, is, our bullying concerns that we've had in our district. Now, I noticed on the latest survey, it has increased on the surveys that's came back. And that was in April's report. Anyway, that Lauren Martin received back through, the Clay County Coalition on that is bullying that was brought up. Thank goodness, we've had some other decreases in specific mental health areas in our district, which is great on that. But unfortunately, the bullying did increase on that percentage. Now, social media has been confirmed to associate with bullying also. So I guess what my point is here is that I look at both avenues. Okay, if we want to help do everything we can to increase mental health awareness and be able to possibly decrease bullying in school via social media, then also limiting type of devices during school hours would be a positive impact towards that mission. So that right there, I'm looking at on the flip coin too. On that, so that's just something there that I'm looking at a bigger picture here. Besides what is convenient for the parents, what is convenient for the students, what is convenient for the general population. Currently right now at my employment, and of course, students are going to find out when they get in the real world environment, is that they're going to get employment situations to where they will not be able to access their phones during work study time, during work hours time. I have secure sites that we're not allowed to have any personal cell phones, any smartwatches or anything, even in while you're doing that type of business, that type of work. So I'm just stating that is that there's real world applications that we're also implementing if the board does decide to go with limiting use, for instance, of them devices in the school. So it's, and myself, and I'm sure there's others in here too, that we went through entire K through 12 without any type of electronic devices like that. And we managed, and our teachers managed
We also
to be able to
didn't
get
have
these instructions across. So it can be
You're
done.
just lucky to have a pencil, Dave. Come on.
I mean,
So,
my job in college was to learn what the internet was. So their world is completely different than the one we grew up in. I wish taking phones away completely during the school year or school day would eliminate bullying. But in my experience is the bullying happens after school hours and before bedtime. That's when the kids are making the TikToks and the Snapchats and all of the bad things, because most bad decisions happen after 10 PM. Now that's one thing that's been consistent from all of our generations, right? So it'd be great if we could take the phones away. I mean, I would love to ban social media completely until their front part of their brain grows enough to figure out what's right or wrong and what not to do. I like the idea of limiting use instead of eliminating use.
I move we make a motion to do cell phone policy number 1. The only difference I want to do is put the Wakefield Junior High with the Clay Center Middle School at that age level, have it be the same.
So it was JH right here up.
Says Wakefield Junior High,
Yeah.
High School,
Up to
move that JH up to there, but I move we do option 1.
Can I say something to you students? First of all, it takes great courage and grit to come in here and speak to a board, and I commend you on that. I've been on that side of the table and this side, and it's not an easy task. But the way I looked at this was bullying and the things that are said to each other through social media, through the phones. When I watched you guys walk in here, look, I saw one of your, I don't know, posts or something to get all of you to come here. I saw one of those. And I thought to myself, how quickly that moved through. And there were some things on there that were, I would consider derogatory. And I think of the students that would read stuff like that all day, every day, over and over and over again. So no matter what decision we make tonight, I want you to remember that when you're on those phones, someone is reading that, someone is receiving that, and they're receiving it in their mind and in their heart. And that's what I would hope you would remember if we choose to keep cell phones or we remove them. And I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever left your phone for even a day? Have you tried that? And instead of looking at this as a negative, what if it was a good thing? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But what if it is? You've never went into that unknown. You don't know. And even if the decision is to remove cell phones, it can be changed. Policies get changed all the time. So again, I hope that makes sense, but I commend you again on your tenacity, your grit, the focus and gathering and standing up for something. But please think of that, the other side of that too. If you were the student that read some of those things day in and day out.
Well, and to piggyback on that, it's all the ones who shook their head yes, that put their phone down, and they're the ones that lost classmates. So they've learned the power, and you guys see the power that you have, especially you guys that are gonna be seniors next year. Look how much change you evoked in a matter of a couple of hours. So use that power for good. You got some young ones that are following you that are pretty bruised. And partially that could be because of social media. I don't think it's the cell phone is the problem. I think the issue is the content going on them, and you have the power to control that. So use your power for good.
I'd just like to point out too, a lot of people have said, that you can't use your phones at work, and I have to use my phone at work. I mean, I have programs the state makes us use that has to be on my phone. I have to use it, so that's not always the case either. So just pointing that out.
I would second that. I have apps specifically for pediatric life support. So when we have a code come in, we pull that up and it immediately gives me all of the portions that I need. So it's using it responsibly.
Using it responsibly. I will second Jeff's motion.
First, second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion fails 4-3. Is that, so I would like to make this motion. Is that I'd like to make a motion that we do what's here, the high school. The junior high needs to go up with the middle school. I would just like to switch the silent mode to off. That they are off. And the teacher can give them permission when to turn them on, or if they need a medical exception, they have on them, but rather than silent mode, they're off unless the teacher tells them they can turn them on. They need to be off and out of sight. So the only thing I'm asking is not on silent. They need to be off, in my opinion.
Can I
One question.
ask for a clarification, Mr. President? That's all right.
Yeah.
Who will be responsible for making sure that the phones are off as opposed to silent?
Well, I mean, if it goes off, you're gonna know in the classroom. I'm not gonna ask you to check every phone to be instructed to turn them off. I mean, you have that problem regardless of, but if they go off, hear a buzz, whatever, then you know that it's not on.
I mean, that's the same thing as for silence right now.
Yeah, I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way.
You guys would need to second that if you did like it
Anybody
to.
else? No second, then what's the next motion?
Yeah, I have a version here that's currently being used on this option 3 that I have written down. Currently being used by our Blue Bay Randolph School District. And basically, and I'll state this verbatim, at the high school, our goal as Blue Valley educators is to teach students responsibility, encourage appropriate use of personal devices, allowing students to carry their cell phone / internet-based watches. We'll provide them with guidance on appropriate times and places to utilize them. As a school-wide policy, still cell phone devices and internet-based watches will not be used by students during classroom and restroom time. Students may access their cell phone and internet-based watches during passing periods and lunchtime. If students access their cell phones / internet-based watches without permission during class time, it will result in a verbal warning with the phone being confiscated and the device will be returned to the student at the end of the school day. Abuse of cell phone / internet-based watch usage by creating, posting, and or sharing inappropriate videos or images deemed as such by the school administration during school hours will result in the following actions. First offense per semester, extended detention, served with administration, and parents will be contacted to pick up the device and conference with administration. Or excuse me, that's the second offense. First offense, verbal warning, and the device will be confiscated and returned at the end of the school day for administration. Second offense per semester, extended detention, served with administration, and parents will be contacted to pick up the device in conference with administration. Third offense per semester, 1 day of school in school suspension, and electronic device will not be allowed into school for the remainder of the school year. The use of cell phones and internet-based watches for inappropriate reasons will not be tolerated Inappropriate uses of cell phones and internet-based watches may include but not limited to bullying, sexual harassment, taking videos, pictures without consent, sexting, and cheating. Okay, that's at the high school. Now, the Blue Valley Randolph Middle School. Middle school students will not be allowed to use cell phones and internet-based devices during the school day. Failure to comply with this policy will result in a detention in the student's file and a possible further disciplinary action. Phone calls. Phone calls to students during the school day are discouraged. In case of an emergency, pupils will be allowed to receive a phone call. Cell phones and internet-based watches may not be used during instructional time unless the teacher grants permission for emergency uses. Well, that's another option right there that we have in the district that's borders us right now.
Can I ask how that differs from option one, opposed to difference?
I'm sorry.
Option one and option three, what's the difference?
The difference, at least the difference is that we're allowing, in option three, we're still allowing personal responsibility to also take place by the student at the same time. And we're not expending any additional resources on the pouch for concerning for option two on that part. It's still on the same format, but this is not, of course, expending any additional resources for the pouch. On option one, it's, to me, it takes the equation of the instructor, it takes the equation out of their hands. This clear cut on what Blue Valley Randolph option three is meant to. It's clear cut, it's across the board. The students will still be allowed to use their devices during set times, such as, of course, lunchtime and in between classes on that point. So you can still have your device. You can still have it on you on person via having to be in a bag such as that, a secure bag. But at the same time is that it, to me, it also teaches, it helps enhance your social skills, and also enhances your responsibility skills on when you move on.
Hey, Dave, if I may, I think there's option one, that is the intent of option one too, that they could be used during passing periods and lunchtime. It's just during instructional times they could not. So
There's no way I could even second that motion without being able to read it. So trying to find it so I can actually see what the content is.
It's, I'm not making a motion on anything on this. This is just another
Third
option.
option.
That's all this.
1970s.
Where are we gonna go?
what's the difference?
All this is. Just another option.
Are you able to combine option one and two? But
I thought we did. Oh,
that's
you
where I'm
mean,
confused with, for example, the locker room and buses.
I think that should be a part of either option, the locker room part. I don't
Yes,
know
that's-
if you read that. That cell phones at the bottom, are not allowed in the locker room, use them in the locker room, which only makes sense. Being cameras and everything else. I mean, that only makes sense. To me, but that was a part of option two on here.
Yes.
So where we want to go with this?
If I could bring us back to social skills.
I don't mean to, but we gotta get going here. We've talked about it. And I truly understand how you all feel. You know what I'm saying? I really do. And that, so now it's time that as a board, we gotta make a decision. Okay, I don't mean that disrespectful.
so is that your,
Just,
I don't want to say line in the sand, I don't know how else to, is that the addendum you'd like us to add is that to keep it out of the locker rooms.
Yes, to option.
So if we addendum, which one?
That's what my question is.
So if we did Robert's Rule of Law, which we don't, and we do it 4-H, we don't do it in school board, then you would say,
Our
I,
policy says we will not
It
use
says you do.
Robert's
right,
Rules of
we
Law.
will not, I know, but I go to a lot of 4-H meetings, so what we would do would be, I amend the motion to add the words. Da, 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 so what words would you want added and to which one? As in, do you want them off or silent?
I think it'd be pretty tough to tell a high school kid that he's on a bus coming from Colby, Kansas after playing football and he can't turn his cell phone. Now, the locker rooms, I can understand, but
I think our
I'm
kids were in,
talking about the locker room part.
I understand, but
And
that's
I-
also talking about buses and that's gonna be pretty tough.
I think our kids were in middle school at the same time when it was an issue, actually with iPads, right? iPads in the locker room, and inappropriate photos being sent. So that's probably
That's
where that comes
came
from. Keep your damn cameras out of the locker rooms.
Good luck.
Yeah, well, we don't want to see whatever you take them. Put it that way.
see, and that's where this gets difficult because, I mean, all or nothing, where do you draw the line?
But I did like the wording on that policy that you read about like,
It's right here.
do not take inappropriate content. There will be ramifications. Yeah, like I would like to see if we added that, wouldn't that address the locker room issue?
I don't personally think they should even be allowed in there.
Is that the only thing that I thought about in hearing that language, is that or some type of that language already part of our responsible use policy?
The thing that they have to sign,
Acceptable use.
Acceptable, yeah, that's a good legal term I use.
Yeah.
Acceptable. So it meant, I guess I was thinking it's already there, just not
and that's the
specific.
form that they all sign and the parents sign every time we enroll them.
That deals with the cell
That
phone.
says, no
computers,
matter what device you're using, you will not post anything inappropriately or there will be. implications.
Correct, and signing, they're not signing whether they agree, they're signing, they know, because that's a board policy, it's kind of like, the concussion or random drug testing, like, you're not saying you agree with it, you're saying I've read it.
Because you don't get
Does
to
that
say
make
no.
sense? Yeah, so the acceptable use is blankets everything.
Is that easily accessible for a full up or our board members and maybe haven't seen that form?
Anybody have any other motion? Everything we can do, we can approve it, all the other stuff here except for the high school, we'll come back and address it. Next month, we can't come to agreement.
They gotta print.
The high school doesn't. The junior high does, I think it's Garfield, I believe, has gotta do their printing ones.
What about Wakefield?
What's that?
Wakefield
said
does.
they do not print.
They do not print.
So, but we need to move on, do something here, so.
Then I move to get final approval to the 2024-2025 student handbook for Garfield and Lincoln in relation to cell phone policy using the wording in option 1 as presented. Because we're waiting on middle school, you said,
No, we can do the middle school.
and
We need to do. the
then
middle
add
school.
BCCMS and Wakefield Junior High.
We have those, I'm just bringing up what Jeff said, we want the Wakefield Junior High to be the same policy.
Yeah, and so I just added that too, yeah,
Once again, we're a unified school district. It ought to be the same.
yes.
So the motion.
So I did, yeah, I did, junior high to
Wakefield would be the same as CC.
EMS, yeah.
Okay. All right. So we got a motion.
Second.
We got a second. All those in favor? Motion carries 5-2 and
I moved, we table the discussion for the high school level handbook related to cell phone use until next month.
a second. All those in favor of the motion? Motion carries.
So what do you guys need from me
7-0.
next?
That's a good question. It's a good question.
So just pick up the discussion where we left off.
would you like some other options based on what we've heard to try to be somewhere in the
Somewhere
middle?
options are always a good.
Okay.
And I appreciate y'all coming tonight.
Yeah, we need to talk about the out of season
And
infractions.
yes, and we will probably see you again next month, which is a good thing. Is it now, on the out of season infraction, is that,
You're welcome to stay if you like.
yeah, you're welcome.
Page 3 of student handbook policy options.
Yeah, if that makes sense, you just strike the last couple sentences there and you add summer to behind season and then it applies to out of season and summer.
So I make the motion, so we go with option 2, use of the alternative out of season infraction language for the 24-25 student handbook.
Second.
Motion will second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Yeah, classified handbooks.
Should have brought this up already. We do have a correction to the Wakefield handbook. We need to remove the counselor's name.
Okay. We'll get that done. Thank you.
Put the new one in.
So we do the cover page for you guys, so you don't have to try to scan everything. Not a lot of substantial changes. The biggest substantial change would be bus drivers that hold their CDL and pass the passenger endorsement. They get the 12 months of health insurance paid. It wouldn't be prorated for those 2 months. Just another recruitment tool. We're trying to do as much as we can. And it's just hard to find people that want to come in and work 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. We need to incentivize it. So that's the biggest thing. Other than that, there's some small tweaks and changes. The second biggest would be for your longevity piece. We don't have very many employees that qualify for this, but it's your 12-month, it's what, a half a dozen or so employees, but they used to not get their 3rd week of vacation until they worked for the district for 10 years. Instead, we would say, once you work for 5 years, you get the 3rd week.
How long can retired employees continue on their health insurance?
They can, if they retire, they can continue, they just pay it
Oh,
till 65.
As soon as they're met by statute, as soon as you're Medicare eligible, you.
Go on, yeah.
Anybody else?
Is that just discussion or do you want to?
We can just,
Discuss this time. So, the other thing that talk about that pay scale.
sure.
The other thing we talked about is if you look on that pay scale for the classified, step 1 is $11.75 an hour. Is that I asked Brett, he's gonna run the numbers for us to put that first stage at $13 an hour. Is that I think we have to take better care of our classified and hourly people, the starting wage part of it. I think we'll have a better chance of getting people hired and keeping them if they start at $13 an hour. Okay, so he's gonna run those numbers just so
And I have them.
everybody knows.
And I'll share them with you.
Okay, so he'll share those with us tonight. So I think that would be the right thing to do from my opinion. All right, anything else?
I just have a question. Under bus drivers, what is a PNS endorsement?
It's,
That's the school bus.
Okay,
so you have to have a special endorsement.
okay.
All right, and then the last one, the letter of request, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
So is that, I've had several people and we all know, I'll be tearing down understanding there's still a lot of people that would like to have his name up there somewhere. And I think deservingly, it deserves to be up there. Is that, so we're just looking at a couple options to do that. One of the options would be to possibly is to change the name of the road to Auto Under, we put Avenue Under Drive. We have a couple other drives, but put his name in there and all all they're asking for tonight is to give Brett permission to give a letter to the city, asking them if they're open to that and start that process, because that's what they would have to do. And then, we would put an address marker up there, really nice one with, Donovan on it. That's one option to do at the stadium, but I'd like to give him permission to at least, write a letter to the city to look at that option.
I like the idea. It would cost us money because we need to change all of our middle school addresses.
Yeah, that's, I think, the only address where things are printed. That's kind of why I thought it would be a good option. It's just one building and it would mean a lot to a lot of
The
people.
middle school is address is Prospect, not Knight.
Yes, so is the district gym as well, with all the fire stuff. I mean,
But you'll have memos and
our insurance.
no bag, envelopes and all that. We're the junior high, I mean, the middle school, there's gonna be some stuff. Obviously, so it'll be a little bit different. So is everybody consensus for Brett to send that letter and?
We want to just, rather than do consensus, we just do a motion.
Yeah. So, I make a motion to, give Brett permission to write a letter, to the Clay Center City Council to change the name of Prospect between 9th and 12th to Auto Underwood Drive. A motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. 7-0. All right. Next meeting is, we talked about, in June, the last time we were there, we talked about the, bringing up the Patterson Foundation grant and any, if we can't use it, if we're gonna do childcare in the future, I know Jeff, you asked for that plan, and so that's on there to decide the next meeting. There'll be staff handbooks on there, Tiger House on the next meeting. Few things that'll be on there, obviously the high school handbook, high school's handbook will be on there also. Is there anything else? And on those things, you can always feel free to, email me when we do the agenda meetings, we'll do our best. Do you have anything on the next agenda?
I think I would like us to make a business motion related to advertising dollars between the publications, just to make it absolutely concise for the staff. Instead of consensus.
Okay. I was gonna ask you, Jack, is the presentations, they'll just be later on in the year?
Improvement plan.
Improvement plan stuff?
Yes,
Okay.
after what we learned from our CISA check-in, there's some,
Do you know when? July probably, or?
the building ones, I think would be more September, October, November, and maybe we do like either 2-2-1 or 2-1-2, depending on what else is on the agenda.
Okay.
And have each of the buildings come. We could put all 5 in one night, but that's long, and I've done that before as a teacher and a principal, and it's a pretty long night.
Yeah.
Not that it's a bad night, it's just,
Yeah.
it's a lot, so.
Improvement thing.
They were talking about, and I suggested to the committee that we put that off since we're gonna be talking about budgeting, we're gonna have a pretty hefty. If you guys are okay waiting till July or August for that
For
presentation, for recruitment and retention, just to keep our meeting size down a little bit.
Else on the next meeting, top of your head? And, future agenda items are there. Take a look at them again, shoot me an email or whatever, if you got something, and we'll make sure, that we get it on there. We get it on there. The main thing's gonna be here, the teacher negotiations, get that turned around as we can, because I'd say the retro pay and all that causes a headache for a bunch of people. If we can get it done before then.
Is that classified thing you're talking about, something you're gonna do before July 1?
Yes,
So it's gonna have to be done too.
yeah. And he's already run the numbers, Jeff, so when we go to executive
So it's gonna
session,
have to be on next month's
we
meeting.
can talk of that, yeah, under the ratification part, we'll have to do that also.
Well, that will be a separate line item,
Yes.
classified.
Yeah. Anything else? With that, we'll take a short break here and then we'll be going to executive session. Yeah.
Somebody who's for student matter, there's for an early grad request. You go on and talk about another student. They want to. Will you stick some generic student language? I don't realize it's just graduation.
That's all it is, right?
I have another.
Oh, you have another thing?
Okay. Check.
You need to
Yeah.
meet for.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Cause I was like going, I don't think we normally meet for that. Okay.
My 15, so on that.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like,
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Until it changes. Is that everything scheduled in pencil this time?
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh, yes.
oh my God, I think when we graduated, I think there was
Sell your
one
house yet?
computer in the building.
Not yet, and I had some people that were, gonna make an offer and then they went on vacation, they said they got back, and they got back, and they. And so,
computer
they
based.
actually just mentioned that
And that's.
they're gonna have to just wait. Oh, you got your hopes up. I know.
We're going there and do it in K State and going and looking
And we have a
at
wedding in
the files,
So,
you know, that was.
and maybe
It's
hire.
like, no, instead of
Just to take
going
one
through,
thing. off.
looking at streaming
Yes,
stuff
I am,
on there,
yeah.
we went up in the
So,
library and
it's
you
on Zillow,
get the
but
little
it's-
film
I think
and
it's a
run it
recent
through
change. I used to see
put the
Zillow.
load and roll and
Page
go
and
through the
then
old
everybody
newspaper.
was paying attention. That was the page, like, the sale by owner page, because I don't have a realtor. So we might, I mean, and it was fine to do it by ourselves anyway, because we were slowly combining households, going from my home to his home with all our stuff and all our things when I was a kid and everything, so it was fine to,
Yeah.
you know, let it drag on, but with the baby coming, the wedding coming, we want to start building a home, so.
No, you don't have a lot on your plate.
Yeah, so we might just hire you to.
Yeah.
Every time like.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, you wouldn't have to miss that.
Yeah. Which Brett was saying, since he just sold his house, he was like, you know, I think he said 3 houses by himself, and he was like, this time around, the people have such a different.
I am a much lower standard.
Financing, that it was hard to have to write that. Navigate all the regulations that they had, you know, so.
I didn't know the first thing.
Yeah, yeah,
How to do it.
yeah, I don't know.
I know the title come
And
together.
there's stuff that's like going where I don't miss the phone, but then there's.
Yeah, they're all good.
You know what?
But they advertise that they'll.
I'll go half a day and go, oh, crap.
Charge you.
Where did I leave that at?
But yeah, so that might be where we are.
But then there's times where it's like.
Right there.
Not anymore, I moved down in February. I have like, I mean, I have most of, just like the big furniture, there just for like staging.
How
you?
Call somebody.
We've moved out.
Also time
Really?
of that era.
No, you know, well, we all met, we all drove into town and met the basketball court and played basketball, but now they don't do it, you know, they all.
You said
Wherever. It is nice, like the bus thing.
If you have anybody you want to be your neighbor, then.
I told her we should buy here.
There you go.
I could be perfect. We have a circle drive. And there's plenty of neighbors.
It's a very big yard.
What do you want?
I have it on there for 240.
2 hours and that one.
I'm willing to negotiate.
Doing one for them.
I can't lose money.
They're playing games.
Yeah.
In regional stuff, way, and it's like.
You've got plenty of bedrooms.
Yeah.
Keep track of where they're at.
I don't know if I'd like to live in that.
I don't know why.
Thing or not. Probably good for your kids if they're all.
Yeah, they're riding their bikes and stuff, then you're not on.
You know, it's just Kansas. I can't remind myself of that.
Weather
I just like the whole wall.
Yeah, that's why I thought I like the quiet neighborhood,
Yeah.
the big yards.
Yeah.
Pretty sure everyone.
You said to me.
Yeah.
You get on campus.
Several people, yes, said, just by the second, because it's 2 lots second,
It's
like,
just
we
like
just
walking
have that,
hallway.
it'd be
It should.
like, who was gonna buy that house if you're gonna build something like that?
Even off there, you can tell that.
There's not room, is there to build? Not on the.
It has a whole separate water meter, and I don't know if at one time.
But you'd just be like.
That's okay, there'd be somebody right here.
To me, that's a yard. Yeah. Not a fixed road.
I agree.
Like a yard,
Yeah.
like for kids.
Yeah.
Intersection.
Yeah.
We're garden,
Yeah.
I'm in the
I
garden.
mean, like I say, it is nasty. It is nasty.
Yeah, no, I like what you, that's what you were pointing out. Make them responsible.
Like you say, you.
That's the hard, yeah, I think that's.
Gets up to that.
We can do whatever we want, so it's not getting reinforced at home. It's spinning our wheels.
My problem.
Oh.
Is that a professional problem?
Yeah.
Before something.
All right. Resume the meeting here again after a short break. Is that, so first thing is negotiations. So I move we go into executive session to discuss negotiations pursuant to the negotiations exception under KMMA, and that the open meeting shall resume at 8:26 in boardroom. The executive session should include the board, superintendent, and council. Second. A second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Yes, they've been leaving it on,
Like for now, it'll be on, okay, I couldn't see a light,
yeah,
is it just lit up if it's off?
the eyeballs are lit up, do you see them?
No.
They're on this side and that side,
Not catching the light.
it's only off if the red lights are on.
Oh, okay.
So they said if we don't wanna be heard, we have to leave.
I would never,
I'll work quietly.
oh, yeah, you totally can, yeah.
And I go, I'm spending more year, yeah.
And people are locked out.
On an errand for calendar, they didn't. do it right. In service with families. How would you read this calendar? So like it says the 20th, that's the last day of semester, so if you come up here 20th, end of semester 20th.
Right, or do they have school that day or not? Is that what you're questioning? Yeah, I am.
Because this says,
But the breaks is fine.
well, that says in-service work day. Like on some of the days, some months they did it like October here.
They didn't even put the
They
number
put
on
that
that.
here, but here, they didn't put it in here. Like, I'm just going by the color, but on this one, that's not an in-service or work day. It's just no school, I'm assuming, because it says 20th.
Right.
20th.
Yeah.
So I'm counting that as a no school day.
Yeah, yeah.
But too, okay. After 60 days, days of assessment, I do, like I'm counting in the 60 school days. So I gotta count that day. I'm gonna have to call now. So it says through the first, right? 20 through the first, but yet the second said major flex work day, so that would be a nice school, and 3 professional development. I mean, theirs are different, so there is no school, but they can still put no school. Because it looks like that's the break, but really for kids, they don't have school.
Yeah.
They don't come back till the 6th. I'm gonna not work on that one. You got any liquors on your house?
Well, did you hear what I was telling them? We had a younger couple came and looked at it several different times, and then they had said they wanted to move forward with an offer, but they were gonna go on a trip. So they went on their trip, then they came back, and she had been having some, the wife had been having some health issues, and she had some more once they came back, and I said, who's checking in, you know? And she said, we're still interested, but let's talk some more, and then she said she's in the hospital again, and that they were going to just wait on making that decision, because they're dealing with her health issues, so. It's kind of a bummer, because they had really been interested.
Yeah, well, maybe it'll work out, maybe she'll start feeling better.
But I'll probably just, go hire a realtor, because right now, like I was telling them on Zillow, it used to be you could be on the front page even if you were selling it yourself, and now it's a whole separate page. And I think there's probably somebody out there that would think that was the right fit, that would have the visibility of a realtor, and they don't, I mean, nobody is contacted,
They're a
they
little
don't
bit
know
more
if I'll pay
aggressive.
their commission or not, you know, nobody has asked, and if they had asked, I would have said I'd pay a certain percentage, but. So we'll probably just do that, because we have to have something off our plate.
Yeah. And really, sometimes it's the same person, like. If you go with one specific realtor and
Right.
they're going with one realtor, sometimes that can be a savings.
Yeah. And the person, technically, I didn't have a realtor when I got it, because the person that was selling the house was also somebody I worked with in the past, looking for houses, and I really like her. So that's probably who.
Mhm.
But we were, you know, transitioning to moving out there slowly, so it wasn't a big deal in the first place, but the closer it gets to the baby coming and all that, it's just
Get it done.
yeah. Cause it was nice to move out slowly. It would have been nice to have it sold previously, but I didn't want to worry about rushing.
Oh, we sold ours. We did our first house. It's not, like, and they come in and they take pictures, and for some reason, like, I cleaned my daughter's house before she sold it. And I like to clean houses, but we're like, whoop, we made it look real good.
Yeah.
Those pictures were real nice. So I think they can do that to kind of highlight the good parts of a house to show them, because there'll be, you know, I look at houses and I'm thinking, wonder what that room looks like. You know, like the rooms that are important to me are sometimes not the pictures that they post on there, so.
Yeah. And like I said, I bought the house from this lady 3 years ago. So she's already sold it.
You can do it again. Yeah, you need something off your plate.
Yeah. We really, I feel like we've got most of the big things done, or, you know, in place for the wedding. Besides the cake. We've got at least vendors figured out for.
Where are you having it?
We'll be at the Morganville School Gym is the reception. and
Oh,
at
yeah.
the-
That's a nice building.
Yes, and then there's a little Lutheran church. Or we'll be out. We've got a DJ, and we've got Joy is gonna cater. On her hometown, this is Joy. One,
Oh.
her and a couple of the kitchen people are gonna do everything.
That's
I
good.
know what they're doing, I know them, you know. But she,
They know how to feed a crowd.
yeah, that's right. And then I gotta find somebody to do a cake. I know there are a lot of people even employed by the school district that do cakes, but I don't know if they can do the big. I mean, I don't know, do they have a place to cook 300 cupcakes or?
Is that what you want?
Well, I figured we'd do a small cake for the wedding party and then cupcakes for everybody else.
That's what Garrett and Melissa did. They did some, her aunt made cookies like that, champagne ones and
Oh, cute.
dark bourbon or something. I mean, I'm just different.
Does she have a baker, for a living?
You know, no, I think and they were
I'll show you pictures. They were gorgeous in the paint and the brown paper, like she had them
Yeah.
fancy names for, I mean, I don't know, I'm saying that. Yes, I know one was like a pink champagne, but that's color.
Right.
People think, oh, they're gorgeous. They were just gorgeous. And they were very good. So you just kind of picture flavor and stuff. Yeah, I was trying to think, you know, there's some places, some people on Facebook that.
So no, I could think of probably like 3 or 4. 3 of them work for the school, that I can think of, I think, that do cakes. And then there's a 4th person I've heard around town. I just don't know if they can do, especially if they're working for the school and if supposed to be doing this on a weekend, do you have to be behind to make all these things? I know you can like freeze stuff at a time, but do they have the resources? I haven't reached out. I need to.
Can't remember if Gary was such a like. Right. Or they just say. Surely they have a little cake. But I think they did, because they kept like the top. I mean, it was just.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. Cause then you don't have to worry about who's gonna cut the cake.
I like
how
those
long
naked
to serve it.
cakes. The bare ones, they're just skinned. You
Yeah.
just kind of skin that frosting. Yeah. I'm trying to think about, there's an admin. She did. I mean, it's somebody on Facebook, like, they're always putting pictures of their cake. They're gorgeous. And cupcakes, but they do them for weddings. Let me see if I can. Oh, Mount Mills board meeting online. I'll go back.
Hi, Jed. Ben said Jed's watching.
Jet.
Jed.
No, Jet. McAdams.
Oh, we've got all the little boys watching.
And I did see him up there, he's all. I will never be a mentor like you. Yeah, I will take you outside. Well, don't use, do not use the name.
Oh, let's see, no. I won't show it now that I want to show it. I can make mints for you. I love making wedding. I have a bowl. Flowers.
Liz Cartwright has offered to also make mints. She said her and her sister's having making pretty for her wedding. But I really don't like those.
You don't?
The sugar ones? You know what I'm talking?
Cream cheese.
Yeah, I'm really not into it.
Really? Oh.
I feel like they're just like a sugar cube.
No, they have cream cheese
I
in it.
know, but I just don't like them.
I mean, you won't be eating them, we will.
Okay, well, you can bring them in. Of your, you can bring your own bag of mints.
Bring my own mints. I'll be staying there. Pass them out. We
You
went to
can
a
sell
wedding.
them outside the front, outside the doors.
We went to a wedding one time, it took a really long time, and they did a really neat thing, they put, it was that, like, so if the table had 8 people,
Mhm.
there was that little tiered thing with 8 cupcakes, so everybody at the table,
Perfect.
they
So you
were
didn't have to
there.
get up and.
You didn't have to get up, but it took a really long time to get through, because the wedding was at the same place, and then eat and all of that, but we ate those first.
Yeah, people got hungry. Hey.
They were really good too. Friends in California, and she has cookbooks, like she can make it with, that's her, she does phenomenal, but small batch.
All years, you know what I mean? So I already know that the.
Oh, my goodness.
I think it's end of the road. It's sweet.
Like
if they did it for Mother's Day, they did a bunch of graduation, I think that would be on their graduation cookies or like the people that do that. cookies,
Yeah.
Cupcakes, like there should be pictures. There's a lady from Minneapolis that does awesome cakes. Her and her sisters used to. She just did them for her grandson's graduation. With power caps on them.
Well, and then I was thinking too, if I go with somebody out of town, are they gonna deliver all these? cupcakes? I have to go get them. Does Ray's do this many things? Will they do?
Huh?
Would Ray's do this, that many?
I think so.
Maybe I don't know, I need to ask around for pricing.
Maybe you could just get that for cupcakes. I mean, are you gonna put them like up on a neat stand or?
Heck, probably, you probably need to get a.
The thing
stand.
that we did
That
at
many.
at Garrett and Elizabeth, we did them like the punch bowls, it's basically a cake glass thing that could be a punch bowl too, but you know, I'm talking about the half a dome lid. But we put the cupcakes on those and they kind of around them and then the thing, yeah, okay, we're just talking about cupcakes.
Yes,
And then on another, you know, the different kind over here, but they were just pretty cake stands.
Yeah,
And then put them on and there was a neat little label. that-
saying what,
Yeah, like what kind it was, but, that looked neat. On a table or the
yeah,
place
I
that they had it, it was a neat, like a buffet.
I'll probably have to check into that beforehand, how big a
What the
table do we
setup
need
is.
to, yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, Russell texted me and said, you do know this is still on, and I said, yes, re-advertising that I'm selling my home. And also looking for somebody to make cakes for me.
Yeah. Does Russell know how to make cakes? Does he make cakes? It's fine. Some cake place. You know. I'll find it for you.
Okay, I'm not. For a little bit more. Lost one.
Oh.
All right, resume the meeting. And, also,
Somebody in August put some language for student exec in the board docs, non-generic, not the grad one. If somebody wouldn't mind just reading that. Want to go and do that.
Oh, I will figure out part on there, so. So, I have and.
Oh, do and, okay, is it in there?
Yep.
Okay, perfect, then we can, if she added an and, that'll work great.
I move we go into executive session discussing another graduation request in a private student matter pursuant to the student exception under KMA. Do you want to go until
8:35.
until 8:35?
Need executive session.
Oh, yeah, the executive session shall be the board superintendent and council.
Second.
Motion is second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
August.
Yeah.
Dangerously close. Sweet chocolate.
I think I've heard of that.
It's in Cuba.
I feel like I've seen this.
Cute thing, but they even have like cupcake or cookies.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want to see, I do music over there. And
You know, I don't know. Right, I don't know music. But I can also find something. And then just have to do like that, and then there's like there. I can, but that's called your school. And there, I have never going to be on it. Yeah, or you can implement all sorts of insurances that. It's really cool. Business. Or this is on the path of the. Right there. They just.
See, that's what they should.
But I said.
Yeah. I need new terms.
Can amount of money. Somebody's closed up shop.
They heard.
Grand Drive.
Oh, it doesn't say that.
Sanchez, I think. I don't even. I knew she didn't make this.
That's the.
Maybe that's her.
Wait a minute. Is this for next year? He goes, it is for next year. I was like, wait till next year.
Actually, ordered it.
Because I'm about ready to pull it out of juvenile fund.
Wait until the Memorial Day.
Oh, that's her. Cool.
Say, how much is this? I'll bring a check.
Oh, so she was one that was mentioned.
Yeah.
You and Sally, yeah. You're
Oh, yeah.
ready to go.
Actually,
Here's safety pins.
yes. Yeah, that's kind of what. Yeah, yeah, probably.
Did you?
I hope that. Oh, like in those, yeah.
But I just saw somewhere in the right thing to do. And they must have ordered them. All green. But they were, they did their one. Great, they, all of the individual.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, and every time you order anything, like, it's usually, the wedding on it, that's 3 times what it was. So they get cupcakes and don't say it's wedding, like what's your code?
Then you could just do something.
Kind of like. Just, we've got. Virgin dresses would be this color. We're not good ones, but just kind of these. Kind of colors.
Cousin's daughter.
Yeah, as late as possible.
She had it in the summer, but she said she was one. So she had.
It's 7 days old. Okay,
What will happen is another. So what will happen is, none of she requisitions the credit card statement. That's the cutoff, and then as soon as all of those are in, I come in there and I flip the switch, and it'll close that one and open up the next one. And you can spin. You don't know your credit card option.
Time for 2.5 weeks. You maxed out. He's up there. Second grade, when it's white.
And that was it. All that was like, my cousin's son.
Generated 2 days ago.
A year later.
That's true. Yeah. I really like
Kind of the same color.
Yeah.
Okay, you and you right here. You and you, as a senior member of this board, that candy thing should not be empty ever.
Okay.
Okay.
There was some in the cabinet.
You're giving.
Oh, look at this.
That candy's bought out of the kindness of Deanna's heart, but if you want us to use district money, you just say the word.
Tell you what, when I get done here, I'll just go out in my truck and get $100 bill and get it.
Donation for candy.
Yeah.
Yes.
We do have lots of people in here.
I know. Students,
One student has to ask on his device. And I have a piece of candy. I think the answer is no. We're learning, except now.
Okay, we're resuming the meeting. Next agenda item is personnel. The approval of the classified staff renewals, 2024-25.
Are we gonna, really better?
Well, probably better early draft.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay,
I move to approve the early graduation request.
Second.
got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
I move to approve the certified classified staff renewals for the 2024-25 school year as presented.
The certified is an ethics, so.
Classified,
Just say classified.
make that classified.
Yeah.
Staff.
Got a motion, second. All in favor, passes 7-0. Next is approval of the supplemental recommendations for 2024-25 school year.
I move to approve the supplemental recommendations for the 24-25 school year as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Personnel report, I move to approve personnel report, including temporary summer staffing recommendations as presented.
Second.
Got a second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Move to adjourn the meeting.